Hey, everybody. How's it going out there in podcast land? Thank you for, I know you're flipping through the podcast dials and you landed here on Wish We Were Then, the show that has been doomed to repeat history so that you may learn from it. I am one of your hosts. My name is Trey. I'm here with my friend Mark. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing great. This is going to be a fun year. A lot of very exciting things going on.
I agree. I was gonna say something very similar myself, actually. Shall we just jump into it?
Yeah.
We're about to take a look at an important year. We say that a lot, I think, on this show. I know that. One thing we've learned from doing it, though, is that every year does have some level of importance to it. You know, some classic song comes out or some kind of influential technology comes out that's going to influence everything moving forward, change the way life operates for generations to come, or the geopolitical climate alters life for the entire world population for a generation, something like that. One of these things happens any given year. You look at the calendar and you see some years are more important than others. There have been a couple we've walked away from going, hey, not a whole lot happened that year. But today we're about to look at a year that I feel like in a decade that is just one of the most filled pop culture decades that there is. The 1980s is just stuffed full of it's maybe the most pop culture decade that there is in general, I think. And this, I might say we need to take a vote and decide whether tonight I'm nominating the year we're looking at tonight for King of the 80s. I think this is a year that when you look at it is quintessential across the board. The political stuff, the music, the movies, the TV shows, everything that's happening feels so just defining of the decade that it's in. Today, we're looking at the year 1988.
Yeah, definitely. When you think of the 80s, this is pretty much the year that you probably think of. Whether you know it or not, there's going to be something that came out of this year that you're going to be like, that is pinnacle 1980s.
Yeah.
And odds are one of those things came out this year. Because holy macaroni and cheese, there's a lot of things that were...
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I was surprised by that, I guess. As I kept going on, I was like, that happened this year too? Man, this is like maybe the most 80s year of them all. And it's so late in the decade.
Well, that's probably why. It's probably like had time to develop into itself.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's had 8 or 9 years to be like, this is what we're doing in this decade.
Yeah, and always the start of the next decade feels more like the previous one than I anticipate as well, usually, you know? Or it'll be like, oh, this is way more 70s feeling like than I thought in 1980 or something, you know? I don't know why I just expect it to immediately change. Like everything goes from being all brown to now we're in the 80s, so everything should be silver. You know what I mean? All right, well, let's take a look at some of this news stuff, huh?
All right, yeah, we'll to jump into some of the news things that are going on. Usually we start out with the disappointing stuff, you know, get you into a low before we get you real high. January 2nd, 4 million gallons of oil, like an oil tank, split apart and collapsed, and it went all into the Monongahela River, and it contaminated up to like 3 different counties, basically, because it just went down the entire river.
Oh, that's in the U.S.?
Yeah, it's in like the Ohio River.
Oh, okay.
Temporarily contaminated drinking water estimated to affect up to 1 million people in 3 states.
Wow. Dang.
Yeah.
That is a hefty oil spill.
Well, it was just because it was like fresh water. I feel like a lot of oil spills that have happened are usually in the ocean, so it doesn't affect drinking water, really.
Yeah, exactly.
It mostly affects like wildlife.
Right.
So
and
this was very like direct.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's hard to care about wildlife. You just go like, man, how many fish were involved? You know, a billion? Well, that sucks. But 1 million people, you're like, damn.
Yeah, it's hard to take the concept of like millions of fish where
You know, really though, I think
affected.
of that. I think if you told me like, the BP oil spill, like, oh yeah, 1 million fish died, I'd be like, that's a lot of fish. That's really fucked up that killed 1 million fish. But like, that seems appropriate to me. But when you say 1 million people, for some reason the number doesn't feel like it's as high.
Well, it just like affected those people's drinking water and stuff. It didn't kill that many people.
Imagine
But
if
still,
1 million people got killed.
That'd be crazy.
That would feel pretty
Yeah,
bad.
so it definitely did a lot of damage.
Yeah, that is a lot of people. Man, I'm always bad with numbers of people. We've talked about that before. Anytime there's any number of people that it's like, if you had told me like 45 people, I'd be like, man, that sucks. All those
It's a lot of people.
45 different people were affected. Dang. It's a massacre. Yeah, that's a way to start out the year. I think in terms of looking over this year, like when I mentioned earlier, it having a lot of iconic stuff going on, it was just like all the names that kept popping up. The things that were going on, so much of it is ongoing throughout the 80s. So it's hard to pinpoint exactly. There were a lot of summits that were held, a lot of people had meetings, and a lot of like peace talks were had this year. But a lot of stuff between Reagan and Gorbachev and Bush having to deal with Iran-Contra affair and stuff like that. Like there was just all this stuff, like I said, very emblematic of the whole decade that was sort of permeating the news stories,
I got a fun one. So we've been doing this long enough that I'm like, when we do these things, you always find references about either the outcomes or how it affected things in the later years. And it's hard to not to touch on those things because we're not talking about that.
Right.
But this one was a fun little callback. So Sonny Bono became the mayor of Palm Springs, California. But on the same year, Clint Eastwood would end his 2-year reign as mayor of Carmel, California.
I remember talking about that now. That's crazy.
So it's
okay.
good.
It's good to see that come full circle.
Like I said, this is where it starts to become more fun because it's hard to not like just like touch on things like, hey, this is a court case, and then 2 years later it was like this. But we're not there yet.
Yeah,
so.
it's cool to be. Yeah, I guess it does bear mentioning some things like that. 2 years only as mayor. That's interesting. Is that a mayoral term? Is 2 years or?
I think they all have different rules because, like, for us, our mayors switch out. Whoever's in the city council will be the mayor for like a year, and then they'll redo the city council. So just like a ongoing thing, and I'm sure it's all different for different places. That's
you think
how
it was like
works.
that there? He was just sitting on the city council for years, like waiting for his turn.
Yeah, maybe.
I can't wait to get up there. I got changes to make. You get 2 years to do it. This I thought was a fun little sign of the times changing. I always think those are interesting little mile markers in history, On May 16th, U.S. Surgeon General C. Everett Koop released a report declaring nicotine to be addictive in ways similar to heroin and cocaine. This was right after a April 23rd federal smoking ban on domestic flights less than 2 hours. So longer than 2 hours, you could still smoke on the flight. International, that was still okay. But short-term domestic flights, can't smoke it on anymore. U.S. Surgeon General comes out like a couple weeks later and says smoking's addictive just like heroin and cocaine. So, when you look back at the 60s and 70s and stuff, people were smoking constantly all the time. And it was almost seen as like good for you. You know what I mean? All the time it's like, oh, you're out of breath, have a cigarette. But at this point, the tides are starting to change. I feel like for a lot of people, it's probably surprising that this kind of stuff happened so late in 1988,
Yeah. I mean, I think we talked about it. There was still smoking in a lot of places indoors up until like the late 90s, early 2000s.
Oh, in
It's not
Texas,
really
I've smoked in bars, There've
Yeah,
been
well,
bars
I
that
meant,
have
like-
smoking allowed.
Yeah, that's true. I'm saying it all depends on the state you live in, but
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I guess it still is kind of a thing, but like the flights and stuff like that, just to know, it's still, even then, if you're going across the country in the 80s, you still have to deal with cigarettes, smoke on the flight, That's
Yeah.
gotta suck. I mean, even as somebody who used to smoke cigarettes, like the idea of just being trapped in a little fuselage filled with smoke like that for 5 hours. That sounds awful.
Yeah, how would you not like become a smoker?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like just being around it, like you would get that secondhand smoke, and at some point, like said, you would become addicted. Or like cigarette sounds good, actually. Like
Yeah, it's like if you, because like as you said, it's just like it's similar to heroin and cocaine. Just like if you just lived with somebody who was doing cocaine all the time, but they were really sloppy with it, so it was just
it
getting
was
in
just
the air.
like in the air.
Yeah, it's just constantly everywhere. You're just sitting there next to him on the couch, it's all getting all of. You're like, ah, great, now I'm addicted.
Guess I got to do more of it. Racking them out. Al Qaeda formed on August 11th in Pakistan.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Osama bin Laden was one of the main people there, and about 3 or 4 other people. I could not pronounce their names. So.
I did see this. I didn't look too deeply into it. It kind of reminded me of sometimes you'll see like a list of bands formed this year. And you're like, yeah, they were like in high school. They didn't cut an album for 6 years. I'm not going to write down that they were a band yet. You know what I mean? They weren't really a band. So I'm like, I didn't know how strong of a group these guys were yet. You know, did they have their sound dialed in? Did they know who was on?
We
what
don't know.
instrument?
We're only in 1988, Trey.
Yeah, see, so I didn't look into this to figure out how deep their set list was yet.
And yeah,
But-
we'll find out, I'm sure.
A couple of when did you say that was? The 11th?
Yeah.
Just 9 days later on the 20th, Iran and Iraq cease fire with one another. After 8 years at war, there is some semblance of peace in the Middle East, which was a big goal of the 80s. Big lot, like I said earlier, a lot of the stuff going on, a lot of the summits happening, a lot of the geopolitical climate at the time was all geared towards this. A couple other big, goings on in the world as well, but this was one of them. So on August 20th, there was a ceasefire in the Middle East. That was exciting.
It's funny we see the switching of war fronts throughout the years because we just did the 60s.
And it's all Cold War stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, this still has remnants of that kind of going on at this point. We're trying to extinguish some of those cold flames. I don't know. Extinguish wasn't the right word to start with that, but yeah, a lot of that kind of echoing still going on. I thought that was interesting, the fact that when I was a kid, the 80s and the 60s didn't feel that different to me, but to recognize the amount of time that had passed and to see certain events that were like, oh, that was 25 years that something had been going on. You know what I mean? Just this doing this show gives you so much more context. Whenever all the years in between are filled in a little bit more, there's a bigger gap between something that happened in the 60s and something that happened in the 80s. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%. Like I said, you have more context for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's step on over into the mall food court. That was a popular place to be in 1988. You know what you might see in the food court for the first time in 1988? Debuted all across the country. You'd find Auntie Anne's, the pretzel place, Cold Stone Creamery, and Dippin Dots all debuted this year. Some kind of feel like very 1980s mall type foods in my mind.
Yeah, for sure. Dippin' Dots.
How do you feel about those? Hey, as I say, you fuck with any of those things right there?
Dippin'
Dots are
Dots.
good. I haven't had them in too long.
I feel like it was always a like Knott's Berry Farm kind of thing.
That makes sense. I always picture them at baseball games, like Storm Stadium.
Yeah, some like events. Like no one's ever like, I brought home a thing of Dippin' Dots for everyone to have a bowl. Like
I know there's the one in Temecula that's like I don't think it's there anymore, but it's like a standalone location, a brick and mortar Dippin' Dots that's not just like a stand inside of the mall or something.
Yeah, I don't think that's there anymore.
It's a cool concept. I like Dippin' Dots.
It's really good too. They're like super unique in the texture of them.
Yeah, I really
Fire.
like the way that like kind of popping them. Is our show going to be popular? Okay. Some other stuff.
The
that might
Foley
make you-
work. People are all about it.
I know. People hate mouth sounds.
Yeah, right. People go onto the internet and they're like, do you like when I whisper?
Yeah, I guess. But I don't like the sounds of eating.
No,
You
I
know
don't
what I
like
like
any
the
of that
sound?
stuff. It creeps me
I
out.
I like the sound of eating Romano's macaroni grill.
Gross.
That came out in '88. You ever been there?
No.
No, there's one by the mall. I used to like. That's another mall thing. Outback Steakhouse came out. Wahoo's Fish Taco, Herbert and Gerbert's, and Fazoli's.
What did you just call me?
It's so funny having lived in different parts of the country because it's like I read things and go, "Oh, Herbert and Gerbert's." Like that makes sense to me, but before I got to Wisconsin, it was like, "What the fuck, Herbert and Gerbert's?"
What is
so
it?
Wisconsin, like sub chain.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's only Wisconsin. That's where I saw it. It's in the Midwest. And then Fazoli's it's pretty interesting. That's the one I was pretty intrigued by when I first saw it. It's like fast food Italian. So you go into the drive-thru and get spaghetti.
Huh.
I never tried it, but it yeah, I mean, it's sort of one of those things that you go, why the hell not, you know?
There's a mom and pop shop in Temecula that does that.
Oh yeah, the drive-thru.
I mean, if you have fresh pasta, it takes like 3 minutes to boil it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Kind of one of those things that I don't really understand why there isn't more of. It really is. I mean, I know the sauce is very, in depth. A lot of work.
Yeah, but coming from Italian, you just make all that stuff in the morning.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it just sits all day, and then you just redo it. You just got to do it fresh every day, or have a system.
Yeah, what I think about Italian food a lot of the time is it's kind of one of those things that's like, it's always expensive, and sometimes it's not great. It's like, if it's not great, it shouldn't be expensive. It's not very hard to throw some sauce on some freaking pasta you boiled. But
they have like pizza places that are to go and fast.
Yeah, exactly.
How is that not the same concept?
Right. Like, yeah, there's different levels to it. And I'm like, there should exist different levels to pasta. Everything's like that. Every other food.
Well,
Mexican
maybe
food.
we should start one.
Well, Fazoli started in 1988, so they beat us there. But
apparently, I've never even heard of a place like that. So, I mean, it's one little mom and pop shop.
Yeah.
Maybe they're
too afraid to come out to the California, try to go toe-to-toe with Taco Bell and Wiener Schnitzel. I just remember
I'm surprised Wiener Schnitzel's still open. I feel like every time I drive by that place, there's nobody there.
That's another place that, to me, I just feel like I don't want to pay you that much money for a hot dog. It takes me no effort to make that at home,
Yep. And it's not even that good.
No, yeah, their chili is kind of weird, like everything about that. Not a huge fan of Wiener Schnitzel. That was last week, though. We talked about Wiener Schnitzel. You know what came out this year, 1988? McChickens. I like those. Mm-hmm.
And they've paved the way for a lot of stoner foods. People like disassemble their McChickens and put them inside of burgers and stuff.
Right. Yeah, I can't think of any of the names of any of them, but I know that that's a thing that is done. You also got Lunchables, Teddy Grahams, and Pepsi Wild Cherries. So, I mean, kids' lunches in 1988 were going fucking crazy.
I feel like I knew that Teddy Grahams were like new-ish when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were still like popular. They were still coming out with like different the crazy flavors. Bags and like the flavors. And
I like the ones that were swirled, that were like, I just remembered those now, that were like the chocolate and vanilla, or I don't know if it was vanilla, but graham cracker flavored, but they were swirled. They looked really cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love Teddy Grahams. They were really fun to play with.
Those are still in the full swing of our childhood.
Yeah, exactly. Lunchables, I was surprised to find out were this new, I think. I mean, it feels like a 90s thing, but it kind of feels like something that would have been invented in like the 70s and then just been around, like, because Capri Suns, we found out, were like in the 60s or something, right?
Yeah.
They were way earlier than you'd imagine.
Mm-hmm. Those little, like, aluminum bags totally feel like the 50s or 60s now that, like, I think about it.
Really? Like, I think to me that feels so space age. I mean, I guess space age stuff feels 60s.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
right,
the 60s was very food in a bag kind of era, I guess.
Yeah, like, I guess that makes sense. Or like spaceman food, like dehydrated astronaut food. And I'm always, that's one thing I guess I've learned about myself doing this, is I'm constantly surprised at how much earlier most technology appears than I expect it to. Anytime I read something like, man, that was all the way back then, anything that happened before I was born, essentially, I'm like, can't believe that was a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess I picture everything taking place in like the 60s or the 90s.
Well, we've had a huge technological leap even the past 50 years.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, even in our lifetime, I mean, the last 30 years, things have been crazy.
Yeah, it's been insane.
I mean, they just to have come out with Pepsi Wild Cherry only in 1988, and the crazy things Pepsi has done since then. I can't think of one different Pepsi flavor. Actually, I was gonna say some kind of funny new flavor, but they're not. Coke comes out with new flavors all the time. They'll be like Starlight flavored Coke and stuff. I never try them though.
Yeah. Is Dr. Pepper Coke or Pepsi? It's Pepsi, isn't it?
I think they're their own. It's Keurig Dr Pepper. I'm pretty sure is the company
Oh.
that they are. I think they're like distributed by Coca-Cola and maybe in different parts of the country by Pepsi, possibly.
Interesting.
But yeah, they're kind of their own thing.
Yeah, I was just saying that because speaking of new flavors, they have like a blackberry Dr. Pepper now.
Yeah, I saw that. Also
That's
interesting.
interesting.
The thing with all these cool flavors is that they either don't come out with them in the diet variety. I only ever drink diet soda, so it's like I don't really have much of a frame of comparison because I'm not that used to the normal flavor of this soda.
Get down with that aspartame.
I'm also probably just not gonna like it. I think sugar is just too sweet for me. It really I don't like the way it feels on my teeth. I don't like the way it tastes. You know, it's just way too much. I just feel it going down my throat. I don't know. I can't drink sugary drinks, but I'll drink 1,000 Diet Cokes. So we all have our little vices.
All right.
All right. Well, I mentioned kids' lunches earlier a second ago. You know what they'd do after they were done eating lunch on the playground? They'd go out and play with their brand spanking new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle action figures. Debuted in 1988.
Hell yeah.
I love Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I had at least one Ninja Turtle action figure. Donatello. Good job.
I had so many of them in different varieties. Like I had one that was, a little Frankenstein guy, and then like a little beach version of Michelangelo. I think my Frankenstein was Raphael. I had a lot of super cool different ones. I loved Ninja Turtles when I was a kid. One of my favorite things back then. The games, the shows, everything.
The most popular Christmas gift for toys was categories.
Interesting. Bunch of happy little nerds, huh?
Yeah,
Categories. That surprises me.
me too. To be honest.
Yeah, well, you know what? I guess this was not out this year, but in Japan, I have a big technological release. Shall we move on? Or do you have more toys?
Nope. That was it.
So in Japan, a big step forward in the technology world, the Sega Mega Drive was released. And the next year in America, it would come out and be known as the Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
household console for gaming in Japan. And this is one of those things that when I read this, I was like, whoa, what the fuck? The Genesis was out in the 80s? I didn't realize that. It seems so, freaking just high tech for the time, I feel like. For
Yeah.
1988. Anything in the
For
80s
sure.
still feels like it should just be arcade games and that's about it,
Well, I think that's when they started to really move away from arcade cabinets or try to do it in home consoles.
Yeah.
Because then shortly after, they would have Nintendo like 64 and 10 years later,
Yeah. I guess I
And-
don't know the year of the NES, but it would have been before this, right?
Yeah, and then the original Nintendo was before this, and the Super Nintendo was before this.
Right. And I guess it's a pretty quick line, like between the 80s were the time when arcade games were the most popular, but also when that happened and the boom in that popularity and everything and arcades being so big, then there was the race to try to get all this stuff into people's hands at home and start a whole new market. So there's a pretty, there's both things are kind of happening at the same time, I think, throughout a lot of the 80s. So like I said, you still have malls, so there still were a lot of people going to the arcade to do stuff, but to see this stuff is now making its way home in more and more impressive fashion is pretty cool. The other thing that I did want to bring to your attention on the video game front, this was super cool, was the ViewMaster Interactive Vision. It was a console that was basically like a sort of like a Bop It. It was like a stick, a stick you held onto, and then a little rectangle on top that had 3 buttons, and then a joystick at the end. And what you did was you put like a VHS tape in, and then it would play on screen, and then like sort of digital stuff would be laid over on top of it. The one that I watched this like long video of this dude playing it recently. He unboxed it and played it recently and stuff. Last couple, it was on YouTube, so it was not from the 80s. This video, and it was like a Sesame Street game, and it was fucking super impressive that this came out in the 80s because it was like he's watching basically this episode of Sesame Street. Big Bird and Snuffleupagus are like they're explaining what this game system is and how it works. And like, see, look, you press the button and it happens on screen. And like the whole screen fills up with bricks and it covers up everything but their faces. And they're like, here, you have to wipe them away. And so then there's like a cursor that shows up and you move around the joystick and it would wipe the bricks off the screen like in real time. And then there's another thing a little bit later where you press a button to switch between who's singing on screen. And it'll be a video of Ernie, or it'll switch. You press a different button, it switches to Big Bird. And they're both singing the song in real time, and it switches back and forth between them on screen on a VHS tape. It was wildly impressive to me.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't even know if I'm describing it that well. It's hard to really... Because watching it, I couldn't make sense of how it worked.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of... Like, what was in the TV that would pick it up. You know what I mean? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not like, tech savvy enough to even...
Yeah,
that's crazy.
The thing itself was playing the tape, like the Viewmaster was playing the tape, like, and then adding the interactive elements and then displaying all of that on screen at the same time, if that makes sense.
It doesn't. I don't know how that works. Because the videotape... How is that being altered? Or it's just altering the image on screen? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's very hard to describe, but it's worth checking out. The Viewmaster Interactive Vision truly blew my mind to see this was something that had come out at the time. So you got a couple really cool video game things that came out that were technologically advanced, I feel like, for the 80s. All right, let's hear some sports news.
All right, so the Winter and Summer Olympics were going on this year. The Winter Olympics, we'll start there. Eddie the Eagle Edwards, who became the first competitor to represent Great Britain in the Olympic ski jump. He finished last in the normal hill and then the large hill event, but he held the British ski record jumping from 1988 to 2001.
Well, that's
and
okay.
So going into
people just kept coming out
debuts,
were worse than him after that.
I guess there's not a lot of hills to ski in Great Britain.
88. I don't know when the Cool Runnings things happened, but this is like a less
okay.
exciting
So this is
version
what
of
I'm
that
going.
Story. Okay,
this is what I'm going into that. Okay, and then after 56 years, curling made its comeback in the Olympics. I guess they took it out because it was boring as hell.
I didn't know that was never a thing. I like curling. It's always one of the few things I do enjoy watching, actually. I really don't watch the Olympics, but I will watch the curling events for some reason.
So the debut of the Jamaican bobsled team came out this year as well.
Whoa, okay. So a lot of people go into the Winter Olympics that just have no business being there. Curling, Englishmen. The
bobsled team. So that was the inspiration for the John Candy movie that was like, I don't know, probably like 92 or something like that.
Probably. That sounds about right. Well, I think we might have mentioned it before, but that's funny, man. That's a good movie. That's crazy that these both happened at the same time.
Yeah, people are just like, we're going to do this whether you guys want us to or not.
It's funny, too, because it's like a long road to get to the Olympics. And for you to get there and be like, wow, we're here. We're going to be the first Jamaican bobsled team. And you're like, oh, wow, you guys are just like that other guy, Eddie the Eagle. And they're like, man, what the fuck? He's got a cool name, too. Like, damn, you guys, we're both doing this the same year? God, dang it, we should wait till next year or something. Or we should come out
Maybe
last
they'll make
year.
a movie about that guy, Eddie the Eagle.
I was just going to ask if you had seen that movie. You have not. You're not aware of it existing?
Eddie the Eagle? No.
Yeah, there's a movie that came out a few years ago. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what it was. But I want to say it starred Taron Egerton. But that could just be because his name sounds like Eddie the Eagle already. It's 2016 film, so just about 10 years ago now. Taron Egerton and Hugh Jackman, Christopher Walken.
Interesting.
Yeah,
It's a popular year for movies.
Yeah,
Or movie influences, I guess.
that's cool. That's cool to hear both of those things happen that same year. It's funny.
All right, now moving on to the Summer Olympics.
Okay.
Greg Louganis hits his head on the diving board in his preliminary round for the diving events, and he hit like the top of the back of his head,
Mm-hmm.
and he had like a huge scar, missing like a big patch of hair on top of his head.
Jeez.
And then he would go on to win the gold medal for the diving events. But
Same
then,
year? Okay.
yeah, that same like a couple of days later. So like after like hitting his head pretty bad.
Way to
But
bounce
then,
back.
come to find out, he had tested positive for HIV 6 months earlier. So there's a huge controversy about him like bleeding into the pool.
Ew.
And then like continuing to compete after like,
And
hitting
he
his
knew about
head.
it.
And he knew about it.
Oh, shoot.
So I don't think anything like came of it.
No. Yeah.
But
Probably, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, I don't really know. There's no like charges pressed, or anything. I don't, I'm sure that would have came up. But yeah, it was a huge controversy.
Yeah.
What
I'm sure.
a dick. I mean, he was like, I already
Yeah.
fell in. What was I gonna do? Stop myself from falling in after I cut myself in midair? Like, but
Yeah, but not to say anything. That's pretty crazy.
yeah, let everyone else jump in after you. He's like, it's chlorinated.
You just have to, you're like, just the thought process in his head. He's like, oh man, what am I going to do? Like, it's going to be like the next week, be like, wait, you got AIDS too? Yeah, I didn't have it before I jumped in. Wait, did we all get AIDS from jumping in that pool? Who put AIDS in there? Yeah, no, I got it now too. That's crazy.
Who put AIDS in there?
I
Who
guess I
AIDS
can
the
come out and
pool?
say. Oh shoot! Don't let anybody know. He's hiding his AIDS tests under like little pregnancy tests, throwing it away. All right, that's great. Did the Summer Olympics and the Winter Olympics happen the same year every time?
No, it changed. One year we talked about it. I don't
Oh, okay,
remember when it
okay.
changed.
Oh,
I
good
want to
job
say it was
remembering
I want to
that.
say it was 92 as well, actually,
Okay.
because then they started doing them like every 2
Offset.
years.
Yeah, that's better. That's smarter to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Keep people interested.
Oh, this is a good one, actually. Roy Jones Jr., an American boxer, was robbed of his gold medal. He landed 86 punches, and his Korean counterpart, Art C. Hun, that's the name, Art C. Hun, landed 32 punches. Roy was given the silver medal, and C. Hun won the gold, and the referees apparently were wined and dined by South Korean organizers.
Oh no.
Yeah, so he got robbed of his clearly winning fight title. It sucks.
That's a bummer. I didn't realize there was such blatant corruption at the Olympics.
Well, I guess when you hold in Korea. It doesn't-
Oh, was it in Korea?
yeah, it was in. Yeah, it was in.
But still,
I think it was held in South Korea, technically.
Should be some level of, untouchability.
Accountability.
Yeah. This should be above that type of thing, I feel.
Yeah.
Oh, well. I guess I can't
All
trust
right,
the
well-
Olympics now.
Moving off the Olympics, let's go to our champions of the year. The Stanley Cup was Edmonton Oilers. The NBA champions were the Los Angeles Lakers.
The Lakers were the first team in 19 years to win back-to-back titles.
Dang.
Yeah, and that kind of thing happens pretty constantly now, Like, it's...
Yeah.
And the Lakers are one of those teams that will just perennially go in there and win a three-peat, or two, just at least back-to-back. Golden State Warriors win three, all this type of thing all the time. And so to see that kind of stuff just was not happening throughout the 70s and 80s. Surprises.
Maybe it just spread out differently. I don't know.
Yeah, because, the Lakers were a dynasty through a lot of that, but it was like back and forth of, other teams and stuff
The
like that.
Bulls and, yeah.
Yeah, and then you got the Bulls coming in shortly hereafter and coming up and getting a three-peat as well. So, yeah, the first time in 19 years, just kind of tone changing a little bit in basketball.
All right, the Super Bowl champions are the Washington Redskins. They were still the Redskins at that point. And the World Series champions were the Los Angeles Dodgers. This is the game. This is the series where Kirk Gibson hit that home run, it was like bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, full count. Like, you know, one of those, and he hits a walk-off home run, and it's just like one of the probably the most iconic home runs since Babe Ruth hit that one where he points to the outfield.
Big year for Los Angeles.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, and then Wayne Gretzky moved to the Los Angeles Kings.
Yeah.
So also a big win for LA at that point.
Yeah, man, a lot of stuff going on. 80s was late 80s feels like an LA year too, driving around in a red Corvette, doing cocaine off the dashboard.
Off the steering
Wayne Gretzky
wheel,
in the front seat with you. He's got cocaine on the end of his hockey stick and leans it over to you. Thanks, Wayne. Welcome to town. That sounds about right. The Lakers just won. Woo! All right, you done with your sports?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. I got to come up with a better transition because I always say the same thing. Well, where do we watch sports on television? There's got to be some other cool thing on there. I can't tell you a dang thing about that. All right, well, where do you watch sports? On television. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what was on TV. What were some of the most popular shows in the country at the time? Well, you had number one was The Cosby Show. That was a hard number one. We always talk about how halfway through the ratings kind of come in. Middle of the year is kind of a way to put it. You get results for the first half of the year, the second half of the year, more or less. Cosby Show's number one the whole time. Then A Different World and Cheers are second and third until in October Roseanne comes in and debuts at the number 2 spot. So your most popular shows for the year: Cosby Show, Roseanne, A Different World, and Cheers. A lot of sitcoms. That's not usually the case. A lot, you go forward a little bit, you get a lot of American Idol, a lot of reality TV shows. You go back in time, a lot of westerns and stuff like that. So it's not usually sitcoms that dominate the top slots. Thought that was interesting to see. And the 80s feel like such a sitcom-heavy era, so it obviously is for good reason that's my impression, eh?
Yeah. And a lot of these were still popular when we were kids. Even if they weren't around anymore, they were still being aired all the time. Always reruns of these shows.
Yeah, I loved TV Land, and I loved Nick at Night when I was a kid. I just loved watching old sitcoms, so these were some of my favorites, actually. Cosby Show, Roseanne, Different World, Cheers. Those were some heavy hitters in my household on heavy rotation, I feel.
Cheers is one of my favorites.
Here's some other debuts of the year. You got Roseanne, obviously. But other than that, you got The Wonder Years, America's Most Wanted, Just the 10 of Us, Murphy Brown. And then a couple that I wanted to highlight here was Hey Vern, It's Ernest, the show with Ernest P. Worrell.
yeah, and they would make movies later.
The one I looked into the timeline. One movie had come out prior to this, and then this one came out with this show. So this was early in the Ernest career, and he had been doing commercials for a while. That's how he got his start, was doing that character in commercials. And then local ads, and then he got kind of national, and then eventually got a movie. What a weird trajectory to have. Just like if Flo the Progressive Lady was just in a movie now, I guess I could see it happening.
Yeah, I could see that.
Other big release of the year, very near and dear to both of our hearts, I know that much, is MST3K, Mystery Science Theater 3000 came out.
Gotta love it.
Yeah, I know. That's a great show. If you're not familiar with it, I mean, they've done a couple revivals and things on Netflix every once in a while. But you just watch a man and his little robot friends watch an old movie and talk over it is essentially what's happening, and it's hilarious. It's such a good show. Other than that, I mean, all these other shows, did you ever watch The Wonder Years? That was one I never really watched as a kid. I thought it was older than this.
No.
I know
I never watched it.
It's like pastiche is supposed to be. It's like a, throwbacky show like Happy Days or something, but I always thought it was from the 70s or something when it would come on. America's Most Wanted, that kind of stuff. I don't know. Never watched that either.
There's a couple of cartoons that I used to watch. A pup named Scooby Doo.
Oh, that's a good one.
And Garfield and Friends.
Okay, another cool. I like Garfield and Friends a lot too. Those have a very similar vibe to them, I feel like.
Yeah. The Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, another great one. That was one of my family's favorites when I was a little kid.
Yeah, like so a lot of these. I mean, I was a kid, but a lot of these I watched. The RoboCop cartoon came out too.
I've never
Those
seen
are the
that.
only one. I've never seen it either. Those are the only ones that I had written down though.
Garfield and Friends is really good. And then a pup named Scooby Doo. I remember as a kid, I loved Scooby Doo in like all of its iterations. And something about that one always like kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but I still watched it. I felt like as a kid, I thought like this is, why do you have to young down Scooby Doo when they're like teenagers already?
They're
Even as a
already
child,
young.
I felt that. Yeah, I was like, you have to make them what is next? Babies? Like, okay, I guess
I just
babies would have been more
remember-
interesting.
One of the biggest things I remember is when Velma would walk. She kind of sounded like Stewie. She'd be like across the floor.
That's funny because I wouldn't have thought of Stewie as being the thing that she sounded like because I don't remember.
Yeah,
her
like
making
that
a
was like
sound.
her legs.
Oh yeah, I remember her making a sound, but I didn't remember Stewie making a sound when he walks. But that's funny. But yeah, she's got those little like crab legs. That's so funny. And it was always Red Herring was like a guy in the show that was like their bully, the town bully.
Oh
And-
yeah, shit, I remember that.
And I thought that was funny. His name was Red Herring. Like, oh, this guy's the fake out.
Yeah.
That's funny. Here outside of another thing that I liked when I was a kid, and I've gotten more into recently, I'll turn on some WWE every once in a while. Back then it was still known as WWF. And this was the first primetime wrestling match in 30 years aired in
Damn.
1988. This was the WWF's main event, was what it was called. It was on February 5th at 8 p.m., and Andre the Giant defeated Hulk Hogan in a match.
So was this like separate from the old like wrestling days? Because you said it was a 12-year gap.
It had been 30 years since the last time they had done a primetime match.
Oh, so like this. So Vince McMahon basically, this is when he started his version of it, I guess.
Yeah, see that he was just like a wrestling promoter. He had his own promotion, the WWF, and then he built that up, and sort of just there were just multiple different parts of the country. That was how it used to be. Is that they would be some guys would have the Midwest, and some people had the West Coast, and some dudes did the South, and like you just had different areas that you would promote the wrestling matches in, and then eventually Vince McMahon came in, and like when wrestling matches started getting televised and things like that, he wanted to just sort of put it all together and make more money, and came up with sort of a national scheme about the whole thing and started getting wrestlers involved in that. So, and then started touring them, and so that's why now the WWF, the reason why they don't just have one stadium that they do it in all the time or whatever, and they go from city to city every week, which is crazy, is because halfway because it's a live event, but also that's the way it used to be, So he had to tour his wrestlers to these different territories because that's what people were used to having have happen back then,
They had such they have such crazy lives, those wrestlers.
Yeah, well, the more you look into it, the crazier it gets, and that's why, like, as a kid, I enjoyed the wrestling aspect of it. But as I've gotten older, and you look into just how the inner workings of this are, it's much more intriguing to me, and I watch it much more like a play and just think about stuff and be like, man, these guys are really good at acting and knowing their cues and like where to land and things like that. It's very impressive,
It's like a dance almost.
Yeah, it's crazy when you actually see it and watch it for what it is, and just go like, oh, this is silly, and it's like these guys they're good at this. And also to know a lot of the stuff they write themselves. I don't know if it's still like that, but that's how it used to be. That's why some wrestlers would do good and some wouldn't. The things they're saying in between, when they're being interviewed and stuff, like they have to write a lot of that by themselves and come up with these storylines and things like that.
Like ad-lib it.
Yeah. I mean, they come up with stuff beforehand, but also that's why some guys will go off and say something that people weren't expecting them to say, and some people get in trouble for that, and some people it works out, and that's why it just is a very, very interesting, deep world, a lot of lore to look into. So, we can went down a big hole there on wrestling. Shall we move off of sports? This is kind of the combination of wrestling and music is literally the very middle of those two. The theater. Very rarely do we bring up big theater releases, but every once in a while one will catch my eye, and I'll feel like it'll be worth pointing out. On Broadway, Phantom of the Opera debuted for over 4,000 performances in this.
Wow, I thought that was an old story.
It is. That's something that was always very confusing to me. I will touch on that in just a second. Uh, Phantom of the Opera won this year's Tony Award for Best Musical and Best Actor, and it's the longest running stage production ever in today's day and age, with nearly 14,000 performances.
Wow.
So debuted in '88 and hasn't stopped running since. Yeah, Phantom of the Opera has always been very confusing to me because it's like, isn't there an old movie about that? How is an Andrew Lloyd Webber thing from the '80s? Like the musical is from the '80s. The idea of it is much older.
Okay.
There's like an old movie. I think there's an old. I want to say there's an old novel. I don't know for sure all the ins and outs, but there's definitely an old movie. So this is just an iteration of it. It's sort of like
No,
Frankenstein,
it makes sense, but usually they don't make the plays years after movies. Usually it's the other way
100
around.
years later. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's find out actually here.
Timeless Tony, help.
Phantom of the Opera, 1925 film,
Wow.
based on a 1910 novel.
Dang.
So that's what we're looking at here. So I was correct. I just was unsure of myself. I need to be more confident.
Well, if you didn't know, I mean, what are you going to do?
Just be confidently incorrect.
Whether you're
if that's
wrong
the
or
case. Yeah.
Confident
go,
and wrong.
no.
That's what I mean.
No, I'm right. I know I am. Like, why do you know? I just have a good feeling about it. Okay. Have you any experience with the play or the musical, I guess?
Our high school did it.
Okay. Did you watch? Did you participate?
I did. No, I didn't participate. I watched it. But yeah, I watched it.
I've
So,
never seen any.
I've never seen the movie. Never, because they've done the new movie. Never seen the old movie. Never read the novel, but I've watched the play.
Did the chandelier
So-
fall? That's what happens at the end of the play, right?
Yes.
Did it?
Yeah.
So it did. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I know about it is if some chandelier falls at some point near the end. That's cool. And then the part where he rips it off. And so yeah, there's the old one with Lon Chaney. That's like the classic image of him playing the piano, and she comes and rips his mask off, and he turns around, and he's all, with his face all pulled down and scary looking. So now,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the old '20s movie. Yeah, I don't know any of the songs. I never have seen it. Couldn't tell you a dang thing about it. All right. Well, I can tell you a dang thing about music, though. We are going to go ahead and take a look at the top 5 Billboard tracks on the charts for the end of the year. We're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Really fast, like that. And then after that, we will look at the rest. Some other stuff that came out on the top hundreds and some other releases for the year. But shall we dip on into the music?
Yeah, I'll start.
Top 5. What's number 5? Let's get there.
Numero 5. Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses on Appetite for Destruction. It was their third single off their first album, and it would be their only U.S. single to hit number 1. The way it was written was drummer Steven Adler and Slash were just jamming one day in their West Hollywood apartment. And then as they were jamming, like they were just messing around, Axl Rose was listening upstairs in his room and actually writing lyrics to the beat that they were playing. And then later that became what we know today as Sweet Child of Mine.
That makes
It's
sense.
but it wasn't super intentional, so maybe makes it a little more genuine, which makes it a more popular song.
Another funny thing about the writing of this song is that the producer suggested they should do a breakdown at the end of the song because it originally didn't have any sort of breakdown at the end. And they agreed when they were listening to it, and they were like, yeah, it does need something. And so then Axl was like muttering to himself, where do we go? Where do we go now? And then the producer was like, well, let's try that out. So that's why at the end, like, where do we go? Ow. Where do we go now? Because they didn't know where to go in the song. That's a funny...
Another genuine, like, fuck it.
Yeah. It's like it's a guitar warm up to start up the song, and at the end they're like, we don't know what to do now. It's a very, very pure song. It spent 2 weeks at the top of the charts. I'm very surprised that they're only number 1. I mean, at a certain level. I guess also though, you don't really see bands like this hitting number 1 too frequently. The rest of the charts doesn't look like this. There's not a whole bunch of bands like them out at the time doing super popular. So it's pretty cool, I guess, that they they made it so big. It feels so like such a huge song. It's such an '80s song, but it is kind of an anomaly, actually. Kind of going over everything and looking at it a little bit, eh?
Yeah, it is.
A lot heavier
Yeah,
than the
it was-
rest.
Yeah, because I think we just see it as, I mean, for me, Guns N' Roses is just one of those 80s staples.
Yeah,
But it's because I wasn't there for it. Because look at all of these other ones. Like,
yeah. They edited out 58 seconds for radio playability, so the song was even longer than it is. When you,
I
when
don't
you
think
listen
it
to
needed to. It's probably better anyway.
It was the band was very upset with that fact. Most of it was like guitar solos from Slash that got cut, and Axl was like, "That's like part of the you wouldn't just cut out part of my vocals and expect everything to be okay. So why would it be okay with you cutting out his solo? That's like part of the song." So I think it's cool that he went to bat for him.
Yeah, I'd like to hear it. I wonder
yeah,
if there's still the original recording.
That's a good point.
Somewhere.
I'm sure it's released on some sort of version at this point, but
Yeah.
who knows? My favorite use of this song, though, has to be in the movie Step Brothers.
Yeah.
It's such a funny scene where they sing it a cappella in the car. I think of that all the time. It's I can sing high, high, high.
I guess, dang it, what's the guy's name? The main guy in that scene?
Oh, Adam Scott.
He's the only one who wasn't actually singing
Oh,
in the car. He was, I guess they had somebody like dub over him.
really?
But he's the one getting all pissed off at everybody
Yeah,
all the
that's
time.
funny.
Fun little fact I've read one time.
Okay, well, you know
Wanna
what I
move on
read
to
one
4?
time? Yeah, I read that number 4 on the charts was Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley. I thought someone was fucking with me when I read that, but turns out it's true. I wasn't being rickrolled. This came out July 27th, 1987. There's the obligatory rickroll joke. I didn't even intend to make it there, but that's it. No
God
more.
damn it. Well, it's too late. It's already happened.
Yeah,
Everybody's been rolled. Everyone turned the podcast off. Trey.
I
Good
have,
job.
man, sorry. This spent 2 weeks at number 1 and was the debut single from his debut album. So another debut coming at you, 2 in a row, 2 fresh faces for the Billboard charts. Just to touch on that, I really didn't want to make this all about that, but it's also one of those. I got to be straight up. A lot of these songs don't have a ton of information about them this week. They're mostly kind of anecdotal stuff for the most part. So, this one though, I mean, it's been inescapable for so long for one specific reason. Rick rolling started on 4chan around 2007. Just want to point that out. So since around 2007, it's been happening, and can't get away from it. But I mean, at this point, it's crazy. It did die off for a few years, and now I feel back a little bit.
Well, then they brought him on like the Macy's parade or something in like 2012 and Rick rolled everybody.
That's cool. I didn't know about that. I think it's not
So
even
I think
necessarily.
it's just.
I think it's a
I
fun.
mean, now it's
reference
just a
now.
running joke.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know.
It was funny though for a while. Did you? I mean, because I've been Rick rolled a handful of times back then, like because you're on the internet all the time, and someone goes, "Oh, check this out," and you get sent URLs back then. They didn't have thumbnails for everything.
Yep.
And like
You had no idea what you're clicking on.
Yeah, you would just get a video, you'd open it up, and then it started with the video would start playing, and it was immediately that, and you go, oh man, they got me. But then there would be where you would be watching a video, and the first 10 seconds of whatever video you were watching were a normal thing, and then suddenly it would jump into Rick Astley getting you. So like it evolved over the years, and it was a funny thing for a while. Have you seen any of his stuff? Like the last few years, he's been coming out with things on like YouTube where he does acoustic covers of songs. It's
No.
pretty cool. It's very delightful to listen to. He has a great voice still. He's one of those guys who's like aged into a really nice voice. He has such a deep voice anyway, you know?
Yeah.
He sounds very lovely with an acoustic guitar. I definitely go recommend checking him out. I kind of feel like I remember him doing Don't Dream It's Over by Crowded House. And just other cool songs, some other stuff that's like not what you would imagine him doing, and it's cool. This song is a song that I actually like. I will point that out. It's one of those ones that's hard to have any other like meaning for it other than Rick rolling, because that's what it is. But like listening to it, it's a good song. It's cool. I like music like this, And I've listened to a couple of his other songs, and I enjoy his other music also. So I want to give him some credit as a musician. All right, let's see. Number three.
Number three is Got My Mind Set on You by George Harrison. Gotta say, there are some things that ruin songs and music for you. Speaking of getting rickrolled.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure it's like a Chevy commercial that this song was just ruined for me. I was like, heard the first like 30 seconds and I was like, I don't need to listen to any more of this song. I did listen to the rest of it, but yeah, it's just a couple of that's all I think about. It's just like a shitty commercial.
I definitely can feel you. I don't know the commercial you're talking about with this one, but I know that same thing with like Bang a Gong, Get It On by T-Rex, which T-Rex is one of my favorite artists, and I still, every time I hear that song start, I'm like, ugh, it just reminds me of like a cruise line or something. And then like there's a Todd Rundgren song, the same thing. Anytime there's a lot of those. Even Led Zeppelin, Rock and Roll for a while was like that for Cadillac, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So there's definitely that kind of association that there was a period of time where rockers were leasing out their songs to everybody for literally anything and making that money. So I can feel you having that kind of negative association to this song. This one came out on October 12th of 87 and spent just 1 week at number one. So surprising to see it land at number 3 at the end of the year. Originally, it was recorded by James Ray in 1962. So this is a cover song for those of you not aware out there. An interesting tidbit I thought about this was Jeff Lynne produced and played bass and keyboards on the song, the guy from ELO.
Okay.
So the Beatles and ELO have a lot of similarities, I feel, musically, so I could see that. This is the final song by a former Beatle in their solo career to hit number one.
Oh, so, dang.
Yeah, nothing by Paul, nothing by John after this. Up until today, who knows? I mean, they release posthumous music from John every once in a while. And I think there have been Beatles songs that have gone on to hit number one since this has come out. But this is the last solo Beatle track. And it went number one the week before the Beatles were inducted into the Hall of Fame. Thought that was pretty cool.
Dang, that is pretty cool.
Good timing. That's fun that they got to go in there and be like, hey, one of our guys is on top of the world. You know? All right. Number 2 is Need You Tonight by In Excess, a band that I remember hearing referred to at a county fair as INXS. It's spelled out like that. This song came out on September 21st of 1987. Spent 1 week at number one again, another 1 weeker, and was MTV's Video of the Year.
I just like write it off as a very 80s like esque
kind of cheesy
style. Yeah. Not my favorite. There's a lot of this 80s music that I don't like. You know, I feel like there's a lot of like, I don't know if it's like keyboards and stuff that all kind of sound the same in this era.
I know what you're talking about for sure.
And I don't really enjoy them too much, to be honest.
All right, shall we move on to the end of the year?
Faith by George Michael is number one. This is his first solo off his second album, and he wanted to move away from Wham and appeal to more of an adult audience.
Yeah, this one spent 4 weeks at number one. This is a song that was not originally intended as a single, actually. It was just like a 2-minute little thing he had kind of worked up because it was just a fun little song he thought was cool. You know, the sort of Bo Diddley rhythm to it and everything else like that. It was a simplistic little thing, but they decided to make it into a single, so they added a guitar solo to it and zhudged it up a little bit. So that's why, I mean, there's like that excruciatingly long opening on the organ and stuff, and then there's like that kind of simple guitar solo in there just to make it into a single, which I find so crazy when that kind of thing happens, when people are just like, I guess we'll release this one, and then in this case it goes to number one for the entire year. That's crazy, you know?
Yeah.
It appeared on the Recording Industry Association of America's Songs of the Century list at number 322. So It's considered an all-time great by the RIAA, which,
It won a Grammy for the album of the year.
well, that's impressive.
So
Um,
it was
I,
doing stuff.
I was surprised to see it on this RIAA list. I thought, oh, okay, well, that seems like there's like some real credence there. Like this is actually this must be regarded as like a very good recording, or like, you know what I mean? Number 322 of the songs of the century by the recording industry, blah, blah, blah. So then I looked into that a little bit more. Apparently, out of the 1,300 voters they petitioned to do this list, 200 showed up to actually do it. So this is just random 200 people decided on the list of the songs of the century. The list is 365 songs long, so it's a lot
Damn.
less important than I thought of. But so it's like these 200 people had to come up with 365 songs and rank them. Like this is just a random. This was the 365 songs these people could think of. I think in the moment, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Faith by George Michael. Someone was like, fucking Martian Girl by the Aquabats. I don't know. That was just on my the tip of my tongue. Fuck.
So I was listening to on the way over here. I don't know. I don't know. I think that again, I kind of had hope for the list when you said the name, and then I feel like all these lists just don't
Yeah,
mean
they never-
anything.
right,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like when you said it, I was like, that sounds legit. Nope.
Yeah,
Still
exactly.
not.
That's like what I read it. I thought because it really was so shocking to me. Because I thought this isn't like a musically impressive song. I mean, it wasn't gonna be a single. It's a very simplistic riff. Everything about this is just not that amazing. It's a cool song. So it was just so shocking to me to see it on such a prestigious list in my mind. But it was like, oh man, I could get a song on this list. Apparently, fuck. I like this song. I mean, well, I don't know how you feel about it. We have different opinions about 80s music, I guess. This one doesn't have any
I like
keyboard
this song.
really, so yeah.
I like this song.
It's more of a throwbacky kind of just class. It's so like reminds me of like I said, Bo Diddley or Buddy Holly kind of a song, kind of almost, you know. This is one that I've performed a couple times at like open mic nights and things like that because it's super easy to play with an acoustic guitar. It's a fun one. It's a cool song. Any other opinions about it?
Nope.
All right. Yeah, I don't have too super strong thoughts about that or the rest of the top 5, but there's some other stuff out there on the Billboard list and beyond that came out in the year of 1988. A lot of stuff, actually, when you get to looking into here. I mean, a lot of things that I listen to. You have Tiffany. I found it surprising how it's happened so often. She had the number 8 song of the year with Could Have Been, but the same album had Think We're Alone Now, which to me is like everybody knows that song and her version of it. So it's very surprising to me that it's not higher up than this other song that I wasn't aware of, you know?
Yeah.
But Heaven is a Place on Earth by Belinda Carlisle of the Go-Go's. Love the Go-Go's.
Man in the Mirror. That one's on my rotation all the time. The Flame by Cheap Trick. I love Cheap Trick. They opened for Aerosmith one time.
Okay.
And they're arguably better than Aerosmith when I saw them.
I really love Cheap Trick.
I like that one. I listened to it because it was on here. It's not like I put it on a bunch. But like Metallica, a lot of cool Poison, a lot of cool 80s metal bands that I listen to a lot too on here.
Yeah, I think Pour Some Sugar on Me feels like such a, very quintessentially 1988 track. It seems like, Hungry Eyes, that's another one that feels really of this year. Simply
Yes.
Irresistible, a good one. There's some stuff that, like I said, that I listen to. Debbie Gibson is another artist that I like a lot that I've gotten into more recently. Pebbles, the song Girlfriend by Pebbles, and Don't You Want Me by Jody Waitley, a couple that are on heavy rotation in a couple of my playlists. Last musical note, it makes me laugh every time I say that. I did that on a different episode. I gotta stop. I can't keep just doing the same shit every episode. That's not. All right, let me think of a different segue. My last musical note that I'm gonna make here is that I'm gonna just point out Nelson Mandela's 70th birthday tribute was a big tribute to Nelson Mandela that was aimed to raise awareness about apartheid and his imprisonment. It happened at Wembley Stadium. Super well-known concert, well documented, well seen. People remember this happening. I believe this is probably what people think when the Mandela effect. This is probably like one of the big geneses of it, is that people remember this happening and go, no, there was a big funeral for Nelson Mandela. I remember we all watched it on TV. It was this giant thing at Wembley Stadium. He died in the 80s. That's why people think Nelson Mandela died in prison in the 80s, is because there was this giant memorial for him, but it was just his 70th birthday party. That's what I assume.
That makes sense.
Just something when I was going
I could
through.
see that.
Yeah, when I saw that this concert happened, I said, wait a minute, let me find out more information about this. And as I kept going on, I was like, it just seems like it's a memorial. The way they're presenting it and everything else, it seems like it's because he died. And it's like, no, it's because he's still in prison. People just, I think.
They're mourning the fact that he's in prison still.
Yeah, it makes sense for people. Even if you were aware of this happening at the time, not even just you're misremembering, 20 years later, but like at the time, if you were sitting there and you heard about this, like, oh, what are you watching? Big Nelson Mandela tribute concert. You're like, oh, cool. Guess Nelson Mandela died. That's sad. You know what I mean? You didn't.
Yeah.
Like, you could have just misheard in the moment because it's like weird to have a tribute concert for someone who's alive currently. But I mean, it makes sense in this specific scenario. But I think that probably is why people think he died.
Makes sense to me. I mean, yeah. Maybe you hit it on the head. Maybe there is no alternate universes.
Well, there we go, everybody. I solved the Mandela effect. Or what if me going back and meddling and doing all this, because we time travel, that's a big part of the show we don't talk about often enough. What if me doing all this causes the Mandela effect? There is a split universe. Every time we go back and make a different thing, something changes.
So is this real beneficial, or are we actually ruining our timelines by making this show?
I think we're just making more to love. There's more timelines, more opportunities. We're creating businesses. We're creating jobs.
So you're welcome.
There's industries that were born, new creatures to fight that you never would have had to fight for survival against before. New Peace Corps that comes into play to fight the giant bugs that we've awakened in a rift in time. Okay, that's it for the music, eh?
Yeah, me too.
All right. Now it's time to turn our attention to the cinema. And the way that we do that around here is that we look at the number one movie in the country during the year of 1988. You go look at the charts. You go find out the box office numbers. A lot of people are going to be telling you Rain Man is the most successful movie from 1988. It was the most financially successful movie to have come out in the year 1988. But during its calendar run of 1988, it only made $33 million out of its $172 million. But Roger Rabbit? Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Well, they would gross $156 million in the year 1988, and that's the movie we're going to be talking about today. Very excited to talk about Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
I love this movie. I watched
too.
it twice, actually.
Me too, actually. I watched
like
it like
this,
right after last week when we decided the thing. I was like, I guess I'll watch Roger Rabbit. And then I watched it yesterday because I was like, I need a refresher again, I think. It's one of my favorites. Oh, by the way, got a Roger
Nice.
Rabbit shirt on. It says Who Framed Roger Rabbit with the logo on the front. And then I know you've seen this one.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. So
Roger
sick.
and Jessica on the back. This was, this has always been one of my favorite movies ever since I was a kid. This movie came out on June 22nd of 88. Directed by Robert Zemeckis, with a screenplay by Jeffrey Price and Peter Seaman. Haha, funny name. Based on a 1981 novel called Who Censored Roger Rabbit by Gary K. Wolfe. Do you think he was an anthropomorphized wolf? And that's why he wrote this book? Because of the prejudice he
You can
felt?
only assume. He lived in Toontown.
Yeah, he felt all these. This was his story he was putting pen to paper about. Stars Bob Hoskins, Christopher Lloyd, Joanna Cassidy, and Charles Fleischer as Roger and Benny, and as well as Kathleen Turner in an uncredited role. I found that weird that she was uncredited. Forgot to look up why that was. So something for everybody out there to go and do some homework about if you care enough to know. But I did think that was interesting that Kathleen Turner as Jessica Rabbit was not in the credits. So weird. I guess they just wanted to be like, she was her own. We didn't even know who that thing was, all right? She just showed up on set and we said, let her go. Budget was $70 million. Most expensive movie of the 1980s. Surprised me.
I get it. A lot of after things to edit out, I don't know. Post-editing.
Yeah, this technically speaking, this movie is just so impressive. I mean, this was something that was unheard of at the time. Like I was talking to my mom about this because I said this was the movie of the year, and that kind of surprised me. You don't really see like fun movies that often being the movie of the year. When we saw initially that it was Rain Man, we were both kind of like, oh man. And then I did some more research and I said, wait a minute, it's Roger Rabbit. And we both were like, yes, because it's usually something kind of a bummer. And also to see a movie we both already liked instead of having to be like, all right, I guess we'll find out how we feel about Fiddler on the Roof or whatever. But
Yeah.
that was a very refreshing change to find that out. But I said I was surprised to see like this kind of wacky ass movie was number one. And my mom said, at the time it was something that audiences just hadn't really seen before. Like Mary Poppins had come out, but that didn't look like this, and it wasn't for as long as this was, and it wasn't as convincing. And just everything they did about this was just mind blowing for the audiences.
Well, I mean, even watching it today,
Yeah.
it's still done really well.
Yeah, I mean, this is like you can't really. It's not like there's that much you can do to do what they did better than they did it. I mean, if you did it like with computers or whatever, well, then you're not doing what they did.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there was computers used to a degree, but I just mean you can't like do a ton of manipulation that's like they did this all by hand in a way that is as good as it was going to get done, and that's why it looks so great.
Yeah, and it was the only time that like Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse and like the cross universes of Warner Brothers and Disney had come together.
Yeah,
Probably the last time too. I don't think
it was. Yeah, that was the last time they've appeared on screen together. That was actually so. This is a Touchstone production, which is like a Disney subsidiary. So this is a Disney film essentially. Warner Brothers only agreed to let their characters be used if their stars got equal screen time with the Disney stars. So that's why you have the dueling piano scene between Daffy and Donald. So like they're on screen for the exact amount of time. And then when they're parachuting, Mickey and Bugs are on screen at the same time for the same amount of time. So that way they could keep it all equal and nobody's like obviously the more important version of cartoons in this thing.
Yeah.
So obviously that was agreed upon. They did that. Then Warner Brothers years later would ask Disney if they could use one of their characters as a special guest at the end of like the final game in Space Jam, because it's a big cartoon live action movie. So they thought, hey, this will be cool. We'll get somebody. Didn't specify who. I'm guessing probably Mickey Mouse. Who else are you going to shoot for? But I'm sure they would have been happy with just about anybody. Say, hey, we'll take Clarabelle the cow if you're willing to let her be here, I guess. But Disney refused outright. They said, not even Clarabelle, not even Horace the horse.
Dang.
And Warner Brothers said that they would never work together again. They were well, that's okay then. I guess you guys aren't even allowed us to have one character. Then we're never doing this shit again. So that's why it's never happened since.
Dang. Wow.
Yeah, that's weird at Disney. I mean, it makes sense, I guess, but I suppose like part of the agreement when Warner Brothers did it was like, well, we have to have equal screen time with your stars. So if you have me guest star in your movie, am I going to have equal screen time with Bugs? Is it just going to be Mickey Mouse in the background poking his head out of every scene, being like, "Oh, good job training, guys. I'll be back at the end."
Yeah, it's true. I mean, and it must have been. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You know how it goes, and people in their egos like, no, I don't want you to have them.
Yeah,
I don't care if you guys did that shit for us.
right.
Like,
Yeah, it's like, oh, you guys should have done what we're doing now and said no. Like we would have still made the
Yeah.
movie. We didn't need Bugs back then. We'll see how Space Jam does. Have fun.
Yeah.
Like, well, we got Michael Jordan. It's like, okay, cool. Well, we did what we did with Bob Hoskins. We didn't need Michael Jordan. Good luck.
He did a good job, actually, and I think
Bob
Chris Floyd
Hoskins?
did a good job in this movie too. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Bob Hoskins. I think he's great. He's in this, and then he's also in Hook. He plays Mr. Smee.
Yep.
And I mean, he's done a lot of things in his career, but like from my childhood, it was the two big roles I knew him from. I'm like, this guy's amazing. He doesn't even seem like the same guy in these two roles. He's such a good actor. As a child, I'm
Yeah.
like, what an actor. He's a funny pirate in this one and a funny detective in this one. He's amazing. But he does a really convincing, I mean, especially for me as a child, he doesn't sound like he would be British in this movie. You wouldn't imagine that. He does a convincing accent. So
Yeah, he does.
wild build that man has. The scenes where he's shirtless.
Yeah, right.
He looks more like a cartoon than Roger Rabbit. That's like a perfect circle. Oh man, he's like Danny DeVito or something, just like slightly bigger. You know, he's very, very hairy, very round.
Situated.
Yeah, he's like a caricature of Danny DeVito, because you're like being nice to him, so you make him a little taller than the real Danny DeVito. You know. Well, speaking of some of the human roles, you mentioned Christopher Lloyd doing well as Judge Doom. I also think he's a great choice for the role. It's like a fun, he's a good actor for things like that. Some of the other people that they did look at were Tim Curry auditioned for the role. And I mean, a big part of me wishes it was Tim Curry. I love Christopher Lloyd, sure, but I love Tim Curry. That would have been fantastic.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
He might have been too scary. Like, the only thing I read about was that he auditioned and the producers said, like, oh, they found his audition really scary. And it's like, well, is that too scary? Is that the reason he didn't get the role, or is it just go to somebody else for whatever reason? But
yeah, well, that makes sense. It's supposed to be like a kid movie,
I mean, that's
and
debatable.
he's supposed to be,
but
he's supposed to, well, arguably
yeah,
generated towards kids, but he's also supposed to be a tune,
right? Yeah,
I mean, so I think that I think that they made a good choice, because I agree that I could understand why they would say that.
Other person though that I want to point out, that Tim Curry, too scary for the role. Another actor, John Cleese, previously too funny for the role. That's what it seems like might be the case on that one. They said, I don't know if we can have you be this villain character. We all know you from Monty Python. This is not going to work, so they decided not to give it to John Cleese. So it could have been Tim Curry, could have been John Cleese, but too scary, too funny, respectively. They did give him the role of Caterwaul in Fievel Goes West, however. So they made it up to John. You're not in the top grossing movie of the year, but we'll give you Fievel Goes West. Don't you worry. We got you on the next one, buddy.
I love that movie, so.
At least they made good.
It did win 3 Academy Awards. Did you say that already?
No, I did not.
Best Film Editing, Best Effects and Visual Effects, and the Special Achievement Award for Animation, Directing, and Creativity.
Deserving of all those wins for show. This was, I wanted to say this before I talked about Judge Doom, but I mixed up the order of what I was going to say. Who cares, man? We're just free-flowing out here. We're shooting from the hip. Don't blame us if things get a little wild and loose, all right? Bill Murray was actually Robert Zemeckis' first choice to play... Oh, and Spielberg. So Zemeckis and executive producer Steven Spielberg. Their first choice for Eddie Valiant was Bill Murray.
Okay.
They couldn't reach him. That's how the story goes. They couldn't get a hold of him. He's famously a hard-to-reach man. And when they finally did get see him somewhere and told him this, hey, we wanted you to play Eddie Valiant, but we couldn't get a hold of you anywhere, and he said he would have accepted. He's like, damn, wish you guys would have reached me, because I would have done this for sure. Like, huh.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah.
We were a different time.
I mean, that was his thing was he didn't have an agent. He just had an answering machine. So you'd call that, and then he would maybe listen to the messages, or it'd be full, and so you couldn't get through to him. He was like, he's just that type of guy. He's very selective. He doesn't want people in Hollywood offering a bunch of stuff. Like, for years and years and years, like, he didn't do anything that he wasn't, very sure he wanted to do. And really, once he did Garfield, I think is the one time everyone was like, what's going on with Bill? And then I think his selectiveness has changed a bit as he got older. But at this point in his career, he still was that guy who's like, yeah, no, I'm good. I don't need to go out and make every dollar I can. I'm going to choose my movies.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think that's what you should have, some boundaries.
There's a world where this, though, is Bill Murray and Tim Curry. It's funny, it would have rhymed. Bill Murray and Tim Curry in Who Framed Roger Rabbit? It's as wild and zany, it freaking rhymes.
Did you say the plot of the story?
I did not, actually. That's a good point. Let's see. I'll just read this little snippet here I found in a quick second. Combining live action and animation, the film is set in an alternate history Hollywood in 1947, where humans and cartoon characters, referred to as toons, where will they get these lingo from, coexist. Its plot follows Eddie Valiant, a private investigator with a grudge against toons. What does that word mean again? Oh, yeah, cartoon characters. Thanks for putting that in there. Its plot follows Eddie Valiant, a private investigator with a grudge against toons, who must help exonerate Roger Rabbit, a toon framed for murder. A what? A toon. Oh, yeah, cartoon. Yeah, right. Cool, we're good. So basically, that's the plot of the movie. But the ins and outs of like the frame job and all of that totally lost on me as a kid. I just knew Roger's in some sort of trouble, and Eddie's got to help him.
Yeah.
Like
and
the
then eventually
will-
the bad guy at the end is Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think the Will, RK Maroon, Acme, both of those guys might as well have been the same person in my head. There was a lot of stuff that, like I said, rewatching it, I'm like, even still to this day, like really plots with a lot of like intrigue and ins and outs and things like that. I have a hard time following, even though I love movies and I know what's happening in movies most of the time, like spy movies and stuff like that. I'm just like, wow. I've mentioned that before on the show, that I'll watch a James Bond movie and be like, I don't know why the fuck he's in Jamaica. He's just there. And at the end, he gets the bad guy. That's all I'm here for. I don't really need to know why he went there. He's looking for a map or something. And then he'll get like a box of diamonds. And I'm like, no, it was diamonds. That's what it was, diamonds.
No, I watched this movie in a totally different light because I don't remember the last time I watched it. It had to have been years, but totally different light. I watched this movie and I watched it actually knowing what happens. Still intrigued in the plot line and like grasping the whole thing now
Yeah.
and realizing and connecting the dots
Yeah, actually
was
following
like, dang,
along
this
and-
is actually really cool. Like,
it's
this
a
is
good,
way better.
it's a well done
movie
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, beyond it just being super awesome that there's cartoons on screen with humans. It's actually like if there were just humans involved, it'd still be a good story, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
I have read the novel in recent years. Maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 years
Is it
ago.
a long novel?
No, it's not. But it's also it's a lot different. There's a lot of similarities. It's very loosely based on the novel, though. In the novel, he's actually a comic strip character. That's an interesting.
Well, that makes more
piece
sense
of it.
being a novel, being a
Yeah, I guess
on
it's
paper,
true.
like
But like the descriptions of everything, it still is like you know, it's Toontown is still described the same and stuff, but just like the way that it impacts the plot is interesting. In like that he has like speech bubbles that come out of him with his words above his head when he's talking. So sometimes people will like leave their bubbles around, and so you get evidence that way and stuff like that, or like ink smudges and things like. So there's a lot of that type of more
that's kinda
detective
cool.
work goes into it because of that. And also, spoiler alert, if you don't want to know what happens in this fucking 50-year-old book, but Roger Rabbit gets killed pretty early in the book. It's called Who Censored Roger? I mentioned that at the top, but Who Censored Roger Rabbit? And yeah, so he gets killed at a certain point. The story is about some different stuff a little bit, but less for children. I don't think the book really had any, desire to be marketed towards kids. So for it to be based on that, and then they kind of just tie it in with like the Disney characters, is what makes it for kids. Because like the plot line's about murder, and like, yeah, they disguise it as patty cake, but it's still about somebody cheating on their wife. I mean, on their husband. And then like, there's a lot of like, cursing, not super heavy, but this stuff that's like, this isn't for children to be watching. Obviously,
they're like, what the hell, or whatever.
yeah, a lot of damn and stuff like that, and like.
Yeah.
And then a lot of sexual innuendos and things that's like totally worked for kids back then because I loved it and didn't know about any of that stuff. Didn't resonate with me. It didn't stick out, but it is weird. It's just super like, who the hell did they make this movie for? Why is it so not for kids? But because it's a perfect
it's
movie,
so
I guess,
good.
to take your kids to. Yeah, kids loved it. And then adults could watch it without being super annoyed because you're like, man, there's some funny jokes in here, actually, But I was going to say, yeah, adults can watch it without getting annoyed, but the older I get, the worse I find Roger Rabbit himself to be. Like, he's pretty annoying, He can be kind of hard to watch at certain points. They use him sparingly, thankfully. He's not in it the entire time, thank God.
What, in the movie, you mean?
Yeah, he kind of comes and goes in the plot. He disappears for bouts of time.
Yeah.
That was a very wise choice by the director here. Because I think, as a kid, I was like, I wish that he was in it more often. He's like Beetlejuice. He just kind of shows up and then leaves, and then he comes back and leaves again.
Yeah.
But as an adult, it's like, yeah, you definitely don't need that much Roger Rabbit. They used him just
you
to
get it.
Yeah. About Roger, Charles Fleischer, the guy who played him, he delivered his lines from off camera in full costume. So that way he could help
That's cool.
rest of the actors stay in character, I guess. Seems like a voice actor thing to do. Like, okay, Charles, you can just get off camera and say your lines. No, I have to dress up in full costume. Otherwise, they won't be able to think they're talking to Roger. It's like, okay, You're talking to me. We're way off camera right now. You don't need to be talking like that whatsoever.
Well, they did that a lot, especially for Disney movies and animated movies. Like I've seen one of the famous ones is Alice in Wonderland, and they do the teacup or the tea party scene. Where he's like,
They acted out.
mustard. Well, I can't put mustard, and they're like, that whole scene is done at a table in costume with those characters.
But so the voice actors have context to do everything. Okay.
And it was for the artists too at the time because those are older.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the artists were drawing as they were doing it too.
I think that's cool because I think that's an issue now. Like so much voice acting feels so stilted. I mean, I don't even really watch animated movies and haven't for so long because they've been bad for a long time. But yeah, when you have so many celebrities in there who don't know how to do this specifically, like they can act, but voice acting is a different thing. That's why there's different voice actors than regular actors. But I think part of the reason why stuff feels so stilted is because you're just talking by yourself. A lot of the time, they're not even. It's not even like this where they're having a conversation with another actor at all. It's just them reading their lines flatly off a list, basically. And like maybe the director's doing the other half or something, but I think interacting with people would help.
Yeah, that's true. But a lot of times they'll do it like to a monitor of the cartoon. Like, so it's basically the other way around where they're like, okay, these are your lines. These are the timing points for it. This is when your character's talking. So there is context, I feel like, but there's still not an interaction that you.
Oh, yeah, no, there's nothing. That's the other. I mean, that's even just in general. Anytime you're rehearsing lines or whatever and you're doing them by yourselves, you're like, I think so much more emotion and stuff comes out when you're actually performing on stage because it's like the other person says something and now that's how life is. You know, you're talking back to somebody. So your lines take on different life than they did when you're just rehearsing them in your room or whatever, or music, any of that kind of stuff. You know, it changes from practice to how it actually is. So, because there's that dialogue kind of that's happening between two people. Also, another bit of alternate cast thing. Joe Pantoliano played Valiant in a test shot that they did to kind of like prove a proof of concept thing to be like, hey, look, they did a little thing of him in an alleyway with Roger and showed, hey, we can make a whole movie like this, and people were impressed and decided to make the movie. And I read this whole thing and saw, Joe Pantoliano was the person in the thing. And I'd seen this clip before and I didn't realize it was him. And I just thought, how interesting and weird that he would go on to be an actor of note later on. But I think this was just early enough in his career that they're like, thanks, that's all we needed you for. It's like, was he in conversation to play Eddie later? No, that's it. We just looked at our notes later and we went, oh my God, that was Joey Pants. Cool, Just mention that later, I guess, when they're doing a documentary about this. Like, that's pretty much all the information I could find about it. Another big thing, here's one more voice acting thing I want to point out. Bill Farmer, who's been voicing Goofy for our entire lives. It's just, the iconic voice of what Goofy has sounded like for so long. The Goofy movie, all the cartoons that have come out since then, at theme parks, all that kind of stuff. All official voices of Goofy are done by Bill Farmer. This was the first time he ever did the voice of Goofy. And actually, he was not even technically officially supposed to be doing it. It was during a big... the end scene of Smile Darn Ya, the part where everybody's singing Smile, there's a big chorus of people. He was hired to be in the chorus singing some of the other cartoon voices, and he snuck in some lines as Goofy, and it made it into the movie. So he technically voiced Goofy in this movie, and then would go on to be the real Goofy for the next 30 years or whatever. I thought that was
Dang,
neat.
that's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So, just keep pushing for the job you really want, I guess. Don't take no for an answer.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, I'm here to play a cloud, but I'm going to get my voice in as Goofy, damn it.
Was Barack Obama?
I thought this was crazy because they're talking about like who is this exactly geared towards? I guess parents and kids at the same time, because a test audience of mostly like 19, 18-year-old kids hated this movie. A lot of them walked out during it. And Zemeckis was like, well, okay, I'm not going to change anything, though. I'm leaving it the way it is. So thank God he decided to leave it that way. But you think that would be like the perfect audience for this,
Yeah.
Like still immature enough to like the cartoon aspects of it, but mature enough to like it's like
How do you
an
go to
adult
a
cartoon.
test screen and walk out?
I mean,
What
I
an
guess
asshole.
yeah, it's a hard
Hank.
situation to be viewing something before there's any sort of consensus about it, and you just have to be like, how do I feel about this? Is this great
Yeah, but
or
if
is
you're
this
like
bad? I don't know.
essentially getting paid to watch this movie and you walk out, like, are you really trying to make a stand? Is that really what you're doing, or are you just being a fucking dick? Like,
Yeah, I don't know. You have to really genuinely just feel like this is awful. And I guess like the vibe in the theater had to just have gone that way of someone just being like, oh man, are we seriously going to watch a movie where this rabbit is screaming at us for 2 hours? And then people just start getting annoyed, and then the rest of the theater starts getting annoyed, and then the vibe starts going that way, I guess, you know?
yeah, I guess. Yeah, I
Bad
don't know.
screening. Yeah, bad first outing for the movie. Good thing they didn't change anything. It feels like oftentimes when we do Disney cartoons, there's a little section we get to do about controversial images. Have you heard about the one in this?
No. Well, I mean, besides the obvious half-naked Roger's wife or what?
Yeah, it does have to do with her as well. Apparently, some of the animators felt she wasn't half naked, wasn't naked enough. They wanted her to go all the way. So they, one of the part where she like falls on the ground towards the end of the movie, I think she falls out of the cab or something, and she kind of like skids back. Like, dunk, dunk, dunk. There's a shot just like for a frame where she didn't have any underwear between her legs, and apparently you just see like, I didn't bother looking into it or anything, but like you see like just flesh colored skin or whatever. I mean, you know, it's not like they painted in a little tiny vagina, obviously. So
Just a little slit.
yeah. So they just like, I guess in later releases they went and changed it and like added underwear in that scene. And then in later releases they would go in and just fix it entirely so it's not framed in a way that her panties are showing to the camera. And I was like, probably the way to have gone in the first place, I think, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why that'd be like, okay, well, we'll go in and put her panties back. Sorry, everyone. It's like, let me lovingly get in there and draw these underwear, you know? And then
We just take that part out. Like,
exactly right. It's 1 second. It's like the integrity of the movie. She has to fall, and her legs just have to be spread that way. The other, this is, if that feels like, oh, maybe they could have, whatever. Somebody forgot to color in that one section. That's what they were trying to get away with the second time and be like, fine, we'll add the underwear. Jeez, but like, if that was one thing, then this is another. Betty Boop in the scene where she's talking to Eddie Valiant. And she kind of goes like, you know, oh, I still got it, Eddie, boop, beepy doop, or whatever. At one point when she's talking to him, her dress slips down, and you see full on just her bare boobs for like a split second. Like her dress slips down and she picks it back up.
What the
And
heck?
you see her
Random.
full on. Yeah, and the director like wanted it in the movie as it's from what I
No
read. It's
wonder those kids walked out.
right? Oh, you're right. Yeah, these are really early. That was like right at the point where everyone's like, I'm not going to sit here and watch this.
Okay.
The director's
take
like,
back
I'm
everything I
not
said."
changing a thing. Yeah, I don't.
What kind of movie
all it
is
said
this?
that it was in homage to like the cartoons of the 40s where that kind of thing happened. So I honestly, I just didn't. One of those things I kind of like tried to earmark and come back later on, and sort of forgot to do much more. I did look into the bare amount that I did look into it because I saw the frame at least exists. There's a frame that showed her with her top down and just little circle nipples. And I was like, okay, this is a real thing apparently. I'll have to come and figure out. Also, I didn't really feel like digging too deep into this, to be honest, but it was like, why was this really a thing that happened in the old cartoons, that she just would lose her top? Or did Robert Zemeckis really demand that this made it into the movie? So both of these things changed with later releases of the movie, but I think that's interesting that early, even the 80s, still there's a time where just the theatrical release of something, there's no real way to, it's sort of lost to time, you know what I mean, in a lot of ways.
I asked Time was Tony, and I found an image.
Yeah, okay.
I don't even know why you would add that. Even if it was an homage to the why.
Right. Yeah.
Because you just didn't add the circles.
Yeah.
It was-
They're just like perfect little circles. It's so weird. Very, very strange
that's
thing to
hilarious.
add in there, though. Yeah, I definitely find that questionable. That makes you go, I think you might have I don't know that you actually forgot to add in Jessica's panties that time. Now I find it easier to believe
Yeah, but
that
you
was
decided not
intentional.
to. Yeah.
That you thought it looked a lot better that way. Okay. Just to reiterate though how great I do think this movie is. Love like rewatching it as an adult and just being like blown away by the opening scene where he's leaving the studio and like all the gags that are going on of like the hippo sitting on the bench and the guy flying up in the air and just all the different like cool gags they have with the animation mixed with live action is so fucking cool. I
Yeah.
love this movie.
It is a lot of fun.
Okay, how many perfectly round little Betty Boop nipples out of 1,988 do you give this movie?
I love this movie. I'm going to give it a 1,769 nipple slips.
I think we don't do it too often, but this is also one of my favorites. I was thinking about the same neighborhood, so I feel comfortable saying 1,769 little pepperonis. Okay, this is a great year. Really happy that we got to do Roger Rabbit. Glad we did this instead of Rain Man. It's nice to have seen so many movies that I would have never otherwise watched. But next time around, we'll do Rain Man, I guess, or something. Who knows?
Yeah. And it is refreshing, like I said, or like you said, to watch a movie that we enjoyed.
Yeah, it was nice to be able to go, oh, cool, I can't wait to turn this on, instead of being like, I guess I'll wait till the day before we record to watch Rain Man, you know? Like, sorry I'm late to recording. I was just finishing watching Rain Man. Some other movies that came out this year, though. Well, we have Rain Man, for instance. That's one of them. Now we're going to take a look at these other movies that were popular with people. One that I wanted to point out, just while we're sort of in the vein of animation and Disney, stuff like that. Pixar's Tin Toy would come out this year and win an Oscar for like special reasonings. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's a short. It's like one of their early shorts, and it inspired Toy Story. It's like the story of a little wind-up guy who's threatened by a new toy that comes to town, and it's very dry. It's not like super fun to watch, but it is historic, and it sets the precedent for Pixar and what's going to happen in the next few years after this for Toy Story and everything. The success of this would lead them to become the studio they were, you know.
That won an Oscar for the best animated short film.
Oh, okay.
Some of like the things that was said about it was the illustration of the baby's face. The facial expressions were programmed to define more than 40 facial expressions on a computer controlled by an animator. So it was just like the first time that anybody had really done anything like this. It's like we were talking about. Even Roger Rabbit was drawn in.
Yeah.
Beside they had green screens and stuff like that, but it was still like a hand drawn movie.
Yeah.
A hand drawn animation. But this is when it first started to become computer programming, so these are the first people to really do that.
Have you ever seen this one?
I have not.
It was on some you know what it was? It was on a collection of the Pixar shorts, like the ones that would be before all the movies. Those used to be so cool. I don't even know if they still do those anymore.
I don't think so.
There was one of like the old man playing chess against himself in the park, and then
that was my favorite. I think.
Yeah,
Bug's Life.
Yeah, I think so. That's the one that like springs to mind the most. The only other one I can remember off the top of my head was the Jackalope, and he has a song about the jackalope and a sheep who gets sheared. Anyway, so it had a bunch of those on a DVD together, and that Tin Toy was on there, and I was like, this one's kind of boring, but it feels like I should watch this because it's important. So as a kid, I remember sitting down watching Tin Toy, and I still have vague memories of it, but I didn't rewatch it or anything. Some other, this is a big year for comedy movies specifically, I think. Like, looking over the list, there's a lot of stuff up and down that I enjoyed, but just so many that are like big landmark movies, like Beetlejuice, for instance. I mentioned it earlier, actually. That's another character who comes in to the movie that's named after him. Yeah, just kind of dips in and out a little bit. But you also had like Naked Gun, classic movie. Coming to America, big. A Fish Called Wanda, Twins. I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker. That's a good one. There's a lot of good comedy movies. Mac and Me. I've never seen that, but that's one that is
I saw that.
referenced a lot.
Well, I think it's just like a knockoff of
E.T.
E.T. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just like a just I guess like a meme at this point or whatever. But the big thing with it is that Paul Rudd, anytime he showed up, so I think Conan is who he would do it on, I believe, or Letterman, I don't remember who.
Yeah.
That he would always bring a clip from Mac and Me and be like, "Oh, I got a clip from my new movie," and then show it, and it would just be the same clip from Mac and Me, and he did it like 10 times, and it's funny every time. Never seen the movie though. There have been a couple times I've been like, I should sit down and watch this. I just have not done it.
I haven't either. You ever seen Naked Gun?
Yeah, Naked Gun's good. One that I would point out for, I didn't really know where to put this, but this is just a weird, quirky 80s movie. It's called Vibes. It stars Cyndi Lauper and Jeff Goldblum as like psychics. And then Peter Falk from Columbo, he's in it as well, running around. And it's a very, weird, like I said, quirky, I guess is the way I would describe it. And I just enjoy it. I don't think enough people have heard of that one. It's not like it's amazing, but I definitely would, draw attention to it at least because I'm sure people haven't heard of that one. And just that was the reason I watched it was because I saw that those people were in it. And I was like, I'll watch something with that cast. I love Jeff Goldblum and I love Cyndi Lauper's music. Don't know much about her as an actress, so that's why I checked it out.
Was she good? Was Cyndi Lauper good in it?
Yeah, I mean, it's an 80s sort of pop star as an actress feel to it, but it's fun.
She could have been like, wow, she did really good. You know what I mean? I don't know.
The movie's not super great around it, but it's just as a fun, weird little thing. I don't know. It's a strange movie, but it's cool. They like go to like some ancient temple in like South America or something like that. I don't remember all the ins and outs of the plot, but it was cool. Some movies, though, I'm a horror fan, and along with comedy, this was a huge year for horror movies. Freaking Pumpkinhead. Never actually seen that one. That's a pretty classic one. One of my favorite movies ever, Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh, yeah, it's a good one.
Fantastic movie. They Live, not necessarily a horror movie, but it's in the vein. John Carpenter. The one where they wear the glasses and it says obey and all the aliens are around and stuff.
I don't think I've seen it.
I actually have a T-shirt that's They Live as well, and I was really in debate, but I thought, Roger Rabbit's the movie of the year, so I'll go with this one instead.
Yeah, it's a better choice, I think.
Yeah, Hellraiser 2, also have a Hellraiser 2 T-shirt, but decided to go with Roger Rabbit. Yeah, Child's Play, the original one with Chucky. Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, that's a funny horror movie. Night of the Demons is a cool one. And then a lot of other people were just sort of like deep in their sequels, but it was just the time of slashers. So it's like you were already on Friday the 13th Part 7, Halloween 4, and Nightmare on Elm Street 4. So, yeah.
Damn.
Deep into the 80s were just
Going
slasher
hard.
territory. Yeah, exactly. In the middle of that. But for little kids that like to be scared, two of my all-time favorites as well. I mentioned earlier I like Scooby-Doo. This year you had Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School and Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. Two of my all-time favorites as a young boy. Do you remember either of those?
I remember the Ghoul School one.
I loved that one. There's it's a all-girls school, but they're all ghouls. Mm-hmm. They're all like little vampires and things. And then the werewolf one I remember the most from the cover of it. Shaggy's a werewolf. And I think he's wearing a red shirt as opposed to his normal green.
I remember that. Mm-hmm. I know what you're talking about now.
I don't remember the actual content of the tape that much, but I remember the cover. And so I do remember those two were two of my favorites back in the day. And two other cartoons. Land Before Time and Oliver and Company came out this year.
I never liked Oliver and Company.
Really? I hear a lot of shade thrown at that one.
I don't know why. I never liked it as a kid. I tried watching it again, and it's still just not. I don't know what it is about that movie.
That's so funny. I love that movie. I just watched it the other day to prep for this year.
I maybe have to watch it because I only watched bits and pieces of it since I was a kid. So
yeah,
I don't know what it is about that movie. I just didn't like it.
No, I mean it's like I said, it's something that's a popular opinion. People don't really love it. It's a well-held opinion across the world. I feel I'm kind of in the minority, I suppose, when it comes to people who like it. Land Before Time, though, that was a big one for me.
Yeah, for sure.
I loved that movie. We mentioned Ernest. Ernest Saves Christmas did come out this year. So
okay.
Ernest Fever's in
He was
full
doing
swing.
stuff, man.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
He's making some money, actually. You don't think about that guy being rich, but
Yeah, he was.
like he did this. He did the Toy Story movies. Like he had, Jim Varney had money. Another Christmas movie that came out this year, also to bring up Bill Murray again, Scrooged, one of my favorite Christmas movies.
Oh yeah, it's a great
I love
one.
that one. Modern take on the Christmas Carol.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and Die Hard, if you want to count that as a Christmas movie. I count it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big debate of the world.
One I started to watch the other day but didn't get to finish was Mystic Pizza. You ever seen that?
No.
Julia Roberts. It's just one that's like I've heard of my whole life, and then finally was like, oh, it came out this year. I'll watch it, I guess. I put it on, and then my mom came in, and she said, oh, Mystic Pizza. And I said, yeah, I can't believe you knew that immediately when you were watching it. And she said, yeah, I never really liked it. And she walked out. And I'm like, how weird to know it immediately and just also not be a movie that like you're fond of at all. So that was like crazy that she was that familiar with it. But yeah, I still haven't finished it. It was fine.
I've never even heard of it.
One that my wife and I watch every Easter is The Last Temptation of Christ. We did a couple Easters in a row. It's not like an every time tradition, but it's funny to us to watch that during Easter time. It's basically the story of Jesus up until he's about to get crucified, and then he decides to get down off the cross instead of going through with it.
What the heck?
And it's a critically like well-regarded movie. It seems like it's a silly, weird thing. It is very weird, but it stars Willem Dafoe as our Lord and Savior Jesus, and he's fine in it, I guess. The funniest thing though is Harvey Keitel plays Judas, or Peter, I can't remember who, but it's just he just still is playing it like Harvey Keitel. So he just sounds like this New York guy walking around Jerusalem. He's like, listen, you got to pay attention to me. You're Jesus of Nazareth. All right, these people look up to you. You got to go out there. You got to be their savior. And it's just like totally one of those weird ass casting choices where like, this guy does not fit in at all in this movie. But that's a funny one to watch around Easter time. What else you got? I can go about these. There's so many movies on this list. I could just talk about them all day.
You pretty much hit all the ones that I had written down. Coming to America is one of my favorites on the list. Big.
I've never seen Coming to America.
Really? It's really good. It's a really good movie. Big, I watched for the first time not too long ago. Pretty good movie.
Me too. It was not one that I had seen a lot growing up and then watched somewhat recently. And then kind of a funny one to watch without the benefit of nostalgia and having grown up with it and just watching it and go, man, movies were so weird. Why did they have to have her like sleep with him? That just makes this all so complicated. Like, don't include that. You wrote this movie.
Yeah.
Don't make that happen. Isn't this movie for children? Why did that have to occur? Like, we got to give something for the adults to watch.
Before I watched it, somebody described it to me as 13 going on 30 for guys. And I was yeah, I get it. I get why he's called it that, but it's much different than that.
I don't know. Doesn't he work at like a toy factory?
I don't remember his job.
I'm pretty sure that's what he does.
But
He's
he
like
made a bunch
tester.
of money because he had like
and she's like works at like a kids, not a kids, but like a glamour magazine. That's like obviously their target demo is like girls and their teens and then 20s or whatever. But it's like the dream job of a 13-year-old girl and the dream job of I guess probably like a 9-year-old boy, but that kid's like 12 in the movie, isn't he? Why would he want to work at a toy factory so bad?
Something that he knows. I don't know. Something he's
but
used to.
Yeah, it's just kind of, it's not like, it kind of seems like you would write it as like, he's on the football team, so he gets to work at a place that makes footballs or something like that. You know, he seems like he's too old to like toys. It kind of makes me think they wanted him to be younger initially. They're like, all right, well, he's 6, and then he goes back, and then he goes and he has this big high time job, and it's hard for him because he's got the brain of a 6-year-old, but he's doing this, and he finally gets comfortable with it, and he meets this lady, and then they kind of start to like each other, and then they end up sleeping together, right? So anyway, then he keeps on going back with his life. He finds his Altar machine. He goes back to being 6 years old, and they were like, wait a second, go back to the middle part there. Did you say you had the brain of a 6-year-old? Okay. Like, well, we already wrote Toy Store. We can't come up with a different place he works. Like, fuck. I just make him 13, I guess. And even then, that's still like, that's good enough, right? 13? That's
couldn't have been a comic book shop or something.
Yeah, that would have also made sense.
He wouldn't have made a bunch of money, I guess, before an apartment.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, I guess he could have worked at, like, as a big-time comic executive or something like that, making ideas. That would have been more interesting, actually, if he was coming up with superheroes.
That would have been. You're right.
And then
Rewrite
Stanley makes a cameo. Oh, we come up with a new big. This time the kid's 6 years old.
We'll call it large.
Then they came out with a movie called Little a few years ago, which was funny to me. That was just like the backwards version of Big, and it seemed like a joke, but it was very serious. Not serious, but it was a real thing that came out. Do you remember that one?
I didn't see it.
It was like a woman who turns into a child instead of the opposite way.
Yeah, I saw the plot. I've never seen it though. One of my favorite ones on here too was 8 Men Out. It's about the Black Sox scandal when they were like underpaying the Chicago White Sox, accepted bribes, and they lost the 1919 World Series. I watched it a bunch as a kid. I haven't seen it in a super long time, but when I saw it, I was like, oh, fuck yeah. And The Great Outdoors was another one that jumped out to me.
The Great Outdoors is good. I mean, that's one that actually I don't even know if I've seen like front to back all the way through. It's kind of one of those was on TV a lot as a kid movies. So I know a lot of the scenes from it that I had seen, but not actually. I don't think I've ever actually seen the whole thing. Should have watched that this week. I thought about it, but did not do it. You know, another one I'll just point out because I saw it on here. It's written down right next to The Great Outdoors on here for me was a movie called Casual Sex with a question mark at the end. I remember that as being a movie that was on like Showtime or something like that, one of those movie channels when I was a kid, and I was like a teenager hoping I could see a couple little boobies. Perhaps this movie sounds like it might be tittillating, but then it's just like these women go to it's like a comedy where they go to
titillating.
Exactly. That was why I said it like that. They go to this like health spa or whatever, and they're kind of hoping that they'll run into some guys who will want it because they're not really having any luck with men, and it's just them striking out the whole time. So it was not a sexy movie to watch, but I do have memories of watching that movie the whole time, just being like, hopefully this goes somewhere, but I guess this is funny enough.
Where's the boob?
Yeah.
You should have been watching Roger Rabbit.
Right? If I could get my hands on an original Laserdisc copy, I could have seen Betty Boop's little perfectly round nipples.
Her Betty boobs.
So weird. Probably could have gone the rest of my life without knowing about that. I feel like it's worth mentioning just because I see it here. Willow's a cool movie. A lot of really classic movies, I feel like. Classic music, classic political stuff happening. Like I said at the top, I think we should make a poll. Say, which is the king of the 80s? I think at this point, we've only done like 2 80s years.
Yeah, we haven't done too much of the early 80s.
So, I mean, out of the 80s years we've done so far, I mean, I feel confident right now just crowning this one king. We've done 81, 82, and 86. Yeah, I'm looking over my general list.
Got a good span of them.
I think so far for me, this is the champion of the 80s. All right, but if you were to...
that.
Yeah, I think... what do you think of that? Yeah, assessment.
I agree with that. So far. Out of the years we've done, yes. Can't speak too much on the other years.
We don't know everything yet, but it just has so much. Seeing Reagan, seeing Gorbachev, seeing, Middle East stuff happening, all the movies, all the music, just felt like such an 80s year. Let me ask you, if you were to keep one single solitary thing from the year and just erase all else, what would you keep?
Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh, that's a good choice. You know what? I was thinking about saying the same thing. And I don't think we ever really agree to keep the same thing because that's foolish. So I would have said that, but instead I'm going to go ahead and say retroactively we are saving Betty Boop's little round nipples. They're not getting eliminated. Those are from now on in every version of this film.
This is the first time we've actually went back and changed something.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like we're saving it from being erased at the end of this year. Yeah. So we'll see. I might have to go back, and then the next time, whenever we do the year that the Roger Rabbit DVD came out, I'm gonna have to be like, okay, I'm gonna have to go back and change what they did to the DVD, just so I can keep this decision
just so you can
alive.
still keep it alive.
Okay, you know what? I don't know if I even feel great about that choice. It's fine. I'll leave it. All right. Well, I had a fantastic time in 1988. This has been a great year.
Yes, a lot of fun. I'm gonna be sad.
Yeah, I know. This is one that I'm going to keep looking back, and I know that you and I, we're going to be walking down the sidewalk of life, holding hands, looking back over our shoulder, and then turning to each other and looking deep in our eyes and saying, we wish we were then.
then.
All right, that's all right. We'll get better.